Hello and welcome to the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman magazine and Global Community Facebook page. I'm Ginny Robertson, one of the hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, where we talk with real women who are living their lives on purpose and bringing their unique gifts to the planet. I'm also the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. Okay, I have to do that because I said I wasn't going to say anything, but that's the first time it's doing it. So sorry about that, everyone. I am the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine and founder of the On Purpose Woman global community. If you're watching this live or a replay on Facebook, please comment or ask questions and we'll get back to you after the show. You can do the same thing if you're watching on YouTube, and please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button as well. I've invited 4 of my favorite women today to chat with me. They are Rosemary Robertson, excuse me, Belinda, Todd, Gail, Dixon, and Lilia, Shoshanna. Thank you all for joining me today.
Really Thank you for having us.
A pleasure.
So we're going to be talking about the wisdom of the sages. Some of you may have realized that was a little takeoff on wisdom of the ages, wisdom of the sages. And I didn't know I was even going to say this, but I'm feeling compelled to say this right now. I so prefer the word sage over crone. Only because crone has been co-opted and turned into something that it really isn't. You know, if you look up crone, you see a witch with a nose and a wart and going bent over, stooping, and probably doing things that aren't nice. Where that's really a crone is just a wise woman. And that is also a sage can be a wise woman or a wise man. But I read something about sages that I was going to throw out before I start the first question. The sage or wise woman is a truth seeker at heart. She's a brilliant thinker driven by a desire to know. That includes both the outside world as well as her innermost self. So that resonated with me, and that's one of the reasons I chose you all to come and play with us today. So I'm going to start with you, Rosemary. First, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Well, thank you, Jenny. I am the scientific mystic, and I am a spiritual mentor, a teacher, a medium. And so I really do help women connect to themselves, connect to their cosmic body, and understand themselves living in a multidimensional lifestyle, and also to clear the blocks to being their purpose in the world.
I love it. And I've known Rosemary for a number of years now, and her work is magnificent. That's all I can say about that.
Thank you.
But Rosemary, one of the words I just read to describe a sage is truth seeker. Does that resonate with you? And if so, how does it show up for you now at this stage of your life?
Oh, it does resonate, because that's so much of what I do in my work, but also the journey that I've been on is seeking the inner truth and that connection to inner truth, and understanding that we spend most of our lives being conditioned by stuff that comes in. And then we get to a point where we have to really examine everything we believe, everything we say, everything that we think, and just really ask, is this truth for me now, or did I adopt it from somewhere else? And I do human design I'm a human design consultant for clients, and that's it. It's really finding your truth and kind of clearing out all the so-called truths that have come in from outside of you. So it's about inner truth.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it also means we're growing up, isn't it? We're finally growing up.
Finally, at whatever age we are.
Spiritually growing up, maybe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Belinda. I'm going to go with you. Actually, I'm going to go with Gail next, because if I get out of order here, I'll be messed up the rest of the way. So Gail, tell us a little bit about your work, please.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Ginny. I'm Gail Dixon, known as the Heart's Voice, and I harness the power of language and listening to heal the world in individuals, families, groups, and communities. And I really know that speaking with the heart is an act of courage, and more importantly, listening with the heart is an act of love. Mm-hmm. So when I think about truth seeking, as you talked about, I think about the truth really coming from the heart, from that deep space where the one great truth, which is love, was whispered into our hearts before we were even born. And that like Rosemary, I think we are inundated with so many voices and different kinds of voices that are not heart voices and aren't coming from heart places. And we spend a good part of the first part of our lives taking in all those voices and trying to respond to them. And I think we spend the wisdom part of our lives sorting through those voices and discarding the ones that are not resonant with our own heart's truth.
Wow, beautiful way to put that, Gail. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
Belinda, I'm going to ask you a different question. I'd like you to tell us how you spend your day. And then what about the idea that a sage is a brilliant thinker? What does that mean for you?
How I spend my day?
Yeah, because you don't have a specific business, do you? You do.
I
Yeah.
don't, but I tend to stay very busy. Today I taught a yoga class at 10, and I will teach another one at 4 today.
I know
I'm
you're
in
doing a lot of that
ministry.
kind of stuff out there in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in ministry, and I am a seeker of truth, and I always have been. I'm really thinking about your first question, because I wanted to touch on that for a minute, because although for many years I was a seeker of truth, I think Gail just hit upon something, and that is standing in your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a bit of strength that I didn't always have.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel at this stage in my life, I'm finally able to speak my truth, stand in that truth, and, in whatever way, use it for the benefit of others. But then that other question you asked me was being a thinker.
Brilliant thinker. Yeah. The sage is a brilliant thinker. Does that resonate with you at all?
Yes. I'm listening to a book. I love audiobooks. And in the story by Colleen Hoover, she's very popular now, Hoover. The man in the story is thinking about this young lady he just met. And he says he looks into her eyes, and what he sees is somebody who is a thinker. Because previously his girlfriends had been just kind of, shallow. And I think thinkers, now I don't know that I'm a brilliant thinker, but I think thinkers bring more to the table. I think it just gives you, because, sometimes you have to be still and consider the things around you in order to understand them and how everything in this world is interconnected, how people are interconnected. So I don't know that I'm a brilliant thinker, but I would call myself a thinker.
Thank you. Thank you. I can claim that we're all here brilliant thinkers. I'm just going to claim that for all of us now. And Lilia, I'd like to hear a little bit about your work and also weigh in. I was going to spread these questions out, but you all are coming up with such different perspectives. I think we can stick to the same 2 questions for now. So Lilia, what do you have to say?
Okay, so I am a Live Your Brilliance mentor, and I help women mostly to really identify their gifts and find ways to share them with the world. And to do that, I have discovered that it's important to find what is blocking them sharing their gifts and shining their light. And so I'm currently offering sessions that I'm naming intuitively guiding block clearing sessions that really help people get to that place where they can shine their light brightly, brilliantly. So I love this concepts of truth seeking. It's very a core part of my work and my passion. It's truth is a center part of manifesto that I created a few years ago under Rosemary's guidance, and it just kind of popped in. It's like, yes, truth is central to what I want to do and how I want to live. And the concept of being brilliant. My angels gave me that idea about living your brilliance, and it's brilliant thinking, it's brilliant living, it's really tapping into that light inside and shining it.
I love that you use the word brilliance in your work, because I think it's a word that not enough women have grabbed
Right.
onto to be, and not enough women have been seen as brilliant or called brilliant over the decades that I have been around. So I like that we're claiming that word for ourselves, and it doesn't have to be academically brilliant. It can be all kinds of brilliance. So just honoring and understanding that is really quite cool, I think.
Well, I think each of us needs to understand, no matter how how well we've done school or intellectually or whatever, we all have an inner genius.
Mhm.
And to tap into that, we become brilliant.
I
You
agree
know,
with
Jenny,
that.
I was thinking when you said brilliant, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is Einstein. So
Mhm.
I'm like, well, but now that you have given another definition, expanded the definition, yeah, okay, I'm going to accept my brilliance.
Yes, yes. And let's all be role models for younger women who don't have to wait till they hit a certain age to speak their truth,
Well,
stand in
and
their brilliance.
and Ginny, to me, the other connotation of the word brilliance is about the light and shining, not about necessarily about intellectual prowess. So we can be brilliant thinkers, but we can also be brilliant souls in terms of having a light that shines from us. And I think that brilliance too is something that comes with age. We stop dimming our own light by hiding behind others, by cloaking it in the costumes that we have to put on to fulfill various roles and responsibilities in the world, by our own fears. And we let our inner brilliance, our inner light shine in the world. So let's not forget to claim the brilliance that's just our own light as well.
Yes.
I call that inner splendor.
I love it.
Because
Yes.
we don't use that word enough. And I
We
think
don't.
if we can claim our inner splendor and just know it's there,
Ooh.
you don't have to do anything but let it out, let it shine.
I wish I could do like a 2-hour show, but I'm afraid maybe not everybody would watch it, because there's just there's so much wisdom in this room and brilliance in this room that I'm kind of surprised the whole internet isn't going a little wonky right now, or this Zoom room isn't going a little wonky right now. But Lilia, I'm going to start with you so you don't have to like pick up the crumbs at the end, okay? This time. The second part of that definition, which I did not read yet, says that the sage archetype is characterized by head over heart. She does not easily get carried away by her emotions, and her natural tendency is to prioritize logic and purposeful thinking in her decision-making process. And when I first read that, my thought was, no, I'm coming from my heart. I'm not that. But then when I read it again, I thought about how measured and calm and steady my emotions are as I age, how it just, I don't fly off. I just, everything is just, And so it's not that we're not heart-centered, right? It's just that we're not letting those emotions run the show. We're not reacting from those emotions. What do you think about that, Lilia?
Well, I think it's about alignment.
Mhm.
That when we are aligned with our mind, our heart, and our body, all three, with spirit, with our soul, we're in that alignment, then we are the wise woman that a sage would be. And I really feel that that's important. And what I have found is I need to move out of my head more into my heart and body, because my propensity was, I was a lawyer for 30 plus years. So I had to use my mind a lot. And as I get older, I realize I need to align all three together to be the wise woman.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I think that's why that hit me, kind of
Mhm.
got me a little edgy in the beginning, because I too lived in that corporate financial world where I was a I always have to think about this. Right brain should be left brain, but I think, I was very much a right brain person living in a left brain world, and I adapted to that. And it was hard once I left to remember who that other person was. And so when I read that, I took it so literally that it was like, oh, I don't agree with that. Now, again, they're also talking about archetypes, and I think we all have sage archetype in us, but it may not be our main one, right? So there could be people, I know that's not my main archetype when you study archetypes, but so there could be some people that is important to and that they need to do that. But I think it's a great conversation to have about the emotions that what changes with us as we age. Belinda, what do you want to weigh in on that question a little bit about what have you noticed over the years that are you different in how you respond emotionally?
Yes, I've pretty much always come from the heart, and I'm learning now to use my head more.
Okay.
So I loved what you said, Lilia, about it being in alignment. There has to be, and that's something that I'm constantly talking to with yoga students. It's like, let's get everything in alignment, So there has to be an equal amount of logic and wisdom, but also that part that's just pure love that you mentioned radiating out. And that's got to show as well. So yeah, I think when we reach that right combination, and the thing is, how do you do that? And
We're
for
going to
me,
talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, prayer and meditation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to have you all weigh in on some tools of how you got to this place, because it takes a lot of work to be wise, doesn't it? Gail, what would you like to add to the conversation about this?
Well, what struck me with what you read, Ginny, was the line about head over heart.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing over something else is very much a male model of the world, a hierarchical model of the world, one valued more than the other, one wins, one loses, all of that, which is not feminine wisdom. Feminine wisdom is both and, like Lilia talked about, in harmony and equal value. So for me, it's about the sage woman or the sage having head and heart in harmony rather than one taking precedence over the other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about harmony and about the both and rather than the either or.
Thank you for that distinction. And I do also agree with the idea that is a very masculine kind of definition, if you will. And I don't know who said it, probably a man, who knows, right? Rosemary, what do you want to add?
Well, a couple of things that are coming to me as we're talking about this. One is that I think part of the wisdom I've learned is what I teach my clients too. Events happen and we can't control everything that happens to us. And then we have this knee-jerk emotional reaction that happens. And when we get wise, we add a pause button before we choose how to respond. And I think that that's learning to respond out of something where we have emotional clarity, or we actually have that alignment before we choose. And I think learning that we're always at choice was a big leap from I don't have to respond out of the reaction. And I think when you get to the point of recognizing that that's what's going on, you stop being defined by the events, stop being defined by the circumstances, and you realize that you have a whole, well, right now we all have toolboxes, we have treasure chests of experiences that we can go into before we respond. And human design teaches us that we're really not designed to use the mind, which operates in the past, to make the choices. We're designed from some other way, like a gut response, or to ride all of the emotions we want to have until we get to that emotional clarity before we make the decisions. And so I think the wisdom comes from knowing ourselves. And then we can feel what we feel, and we can come out of love. We don't come out of that reaction that's the knee-jerk thing. And we make the choices that are really the wise choices. And that's our response after we've paused enough to consider it.
Yeah, beautifully said. I agree with that so much. I think one of the most important things I ever learned was not every thought in my head has to be spoken. And the pause button is so important to really I think it was Wayne Dyer who said to ask yourself, like 3 questions before you respond. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
That's actually Rumi.
Is
He
it
said
Rumi?
but it
Okay,
was Rumi.
so he probably took it from Rumi. He
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
said that because he
He
was
gets
great at naming who he got his work from. But I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, and it only takes a few seconds. You don't have to like go through this list and think about each one. But if we could wait till we knew for sure that we needed to say whatever was going to come up, that was going to maybe appear to be unkind or appear to be, setting a boundary or taking a stand, that we're coming from that place, that heart place of love, then it will either be received differently or it won't. But we know that our intention then was to send it with love. We can't be responsible for how it's received. So that was really life-changing for me to realize that, life doesn't have to be, I don't have to always be battling to be heard or seen. And for those of us who grew up at a time when, well, we all did actually, when, girl children, women were not given a voice really, sit down, be quiet. You're showing off too much. You're too big for your britches. Settle down, settle down. Little boys were running around breaking stuff and little girls were told, settle down. And so we didn't just grow into that as women. Oh, here we are. I've got a voice. Let me use it. We had to grow up in environments that either supported us or didn't. And we became who we were because of or in spite of all of that training, right? So let's see, what do I want to say now? Let's talk about tools that you all have used in probably using them if you have clients, you might be using them with clients, but tools that got you to this place of just sharing your wisdom, of living in your truth, of being that grounded woman who feels and thinks before she speaks. Everything that we've talked about so far. And Rosemary, I'm going to start with you.
Well, one of the things that I find interesting, you said something about learning or being a learner. And when I have had tools that have helped me, I've decided I want to learn that tool so I can use it to help other people. So I have studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming as a counseling tool, hypnosis. I'm a trainer of hypnotherapy. I've studied all kinds of tools like feng shui and astrology and scientific hand analysis, whatever, along the way was helping me, I studied so that I could help others. And so right now I'm just getting certified in human design. I've been doing readings for several years, but I'm doing another teacher's course to get certified in that so I can help, because it's been really helpful for me. And so I want to learn it so that I can use what's been helpful for me with others. I also think, as Belinda said, that meditation part, when I first learned that from, I don't know, decades ago. And then I went to seminary, which was like a mystery school for 4 years. And I learned so much. And I was introduced to so many ways to meditate and to think. And then when my gifts started showing up, the intuitive gifts, being a medium, I had no idea that was a form of grief healing, is to use the ability to help someone finish their work with someone who's crossed over to the other side. And I've had psychologists bring clients to me because that was the key they needed to get their talk therapy to really take off. So it's things like that you may not recognize them at first, but when they come up, it's like if you employ the tools that help you, if you employ the gifts you recognize, then you can really make a difference out in the world.
Thank you. Gail, share some of your tools with us.
Well, I will hop right on the meditation train. That is my go-to for tuning in and listening to spirit and listening to my inner self as a reflection of spirit. And the other thing I think that probably is my greatest tool is my ability to listen, and then my choice to be in the company of wise and shining souls, so that I just have made it a habit in my life to seek out and choose to be with people whose wisdom and goodness and spirit for right living shines through them, and being able to really listen deeply and absorb what comes from them. So I would say one of my superpowers is deep listening and synthesis, so that I can accumulate what I hear from around me and put it together in a new way to move through the world.
Wow. I love everything that you said. I especially love this idea that we get to this place where, we get to choose who we're around. We get to choose the people we associate with. We get to choose them based on what we feel they give us, really energetically, what they bring to us, what they take away from us, what they, how do we feel when they walk in the room? And there's such freedom in that as we age to be able to make those choices. I remember years ago when I was in seminar training, not seminary, but seminar training, we were told, one of the things we were taught is that sometimes people will self-select out. Once you start to make changes in your life, once you start to grow and release old things that are no longer working, there will be people who will self-select out. You don't have to do anything. They will just leave, and we wish them well and we let them go. And that was a real eye-opener for me, because I was starting to grieve those people who were saying, well, you've changed, as though it were something really nasty. You've changed, Ginny, and I don't like it. And I thought, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I am doing something wrong here. But, not everybody's ready for our brilliance and our wisdom and our truth telling and our truth seeking. And that's okay, because they're on another path. And so, Belinda, what do you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah. Well, in addition to a seminary and another master's degree, but for 31 years, I was a flight attendant. And I was a flight attendant in the days when it was really fun to fly. And having observed and talked to many, 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 many people, I just became an observer of behaviors and how people acted. And I would talk to people if I found them interesting, if I could see their brilliance through their eyes, that light, I wanted to engage with them to find out, what made you that way. And so I think I just kind of gathered all the good things I could find along the way.
That's a quote. Gather all the good things you can find along the way.
Absolutely.
Belinda Todd. Thank you.
Should we write that one down?
I think so,
that.
yes.
Yes.
So there could be a number of those things from this just one interview here, a number of brilliant wisdom quotes that are coming from all of you. Lilia, add on, please.
Okay, so as I was reflecting on this, I realized that some of my tools just appeared to me. So the first one was the Enneagram, which is a tool for self-discovery and really seeing some of the unconscious dynamics we have, so that we can let go of what is personality and really tap into what is our essence. So that just came out of the blue for me at a time, one of my darkest times, and it helped me move on a healing and spiritual path. And angels, connecting with spirit world, also total surprise to me in my mid-40s when I started having experiences with the angels, and they redirected me from being a lawyer for the state legislature to doing the work that I do now. Doing Reiki or any kind of energy healing has been a powerful gift as well. And there's so much available to us now to help us at whatever stage in life we're at. But I think any of it circling back to that concept of truth, what is true and what is true for us. It's so important for each of us to discern that. And I feel like the more we discern that for ourselves, the closer we get to truth with a capital T.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned that in the Enneagram information just came to you, the angels. I know you tell the story, you're taking a walk, I believe, at lunchtime from your job as a lawyer for the state legislature, and you hear this voice, right? And you actually saw something. And these things just show up. And I think as we age, we start to trust those things more. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, have you ever been in a bookstore and had a book fall off the shelf right at your feet?
Yes.
And you went, oh, I didn't know I needed this book, but it sounds like something I should be reading right now. Or just you have a chance encounter with someone who says maybe one sentence and you're on a different direction, you're on a different path. But we have to learn to trust that. So quickly, like a sentence or two each, I'd like to sort of wrap up with a couple of things. One, when do you think you started to actually trust your intuition, trust your inner knowing, trust that what was coming in was actually good and that you could use it? And what would you say to a woman, let's say 50 and under, who hasn't reached that space yet of any of the stuff we've talked about? What would you say to her about where she is right this minute? And I'm going to start with you, Lilia.
It's definitely been a process for me. I can remember early on, trust that inner small voice and find out, oh, I heard that I was supposed to take my umbrella, but I didn't, and now it's raining. That's the small thing. And it's just something I would advise anybody to just keep paying attention, seeing the hits that are right on and the hits you miss. And it'll help develop that trust. It's really important.
Thank you. And be gentle with yourself along the way.
Absolutely. Yes.
Belinda.
Yeah, I have to say that being an African American woman, there are many other things that I consider, and very recently I've been looking at my ancestors and trying to, thanks to Andrea, I believe it's Andrea, yeah, understand the wisdom that they are willing to share to me if I'm open and receiving and knowing that they're there for me. That was very powerful for me. And so that's where I am now, knowing that there is power in the wisdom of many, many strong Black women.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who speak
Thank
to
you.
me even now.
I love that. And then you're also setting the stage for the strong Black women that are coming behind you. You know,
I've
that's
got
what we're
some
really all doing. What was that?
Yeah, I have some wonderful young women in my life now. My daughter-in-law and a couple of other ladies who are in my circles, and I so enjoy them. And then when I realize that they're gaining wisdom from me, it's like, oh, well, that's cool too.
It is. It is. I didn't know that
Yeah.
I would feel so comfortable at this age. I really didn't. I thought that when I'm 71 now, and I thought when I hit 70, that would finally be the decade where I started to feel like I was getting old. And then when I hit 70, I thought, well, maybe it'll be 80. And I have a feeling that when I get 80, it's just going to be another year, you know. So that's the beauty of living in this time, I think, because we get to make the rules ourselves about how we feel about aging, about how we age. There's still a whole bunch of stereotypes. I cringe every time I see a commercial where they're showing old people doing stupid, infantile things. And I'm probably not going to buy a product from that company. But things have changed, but we are the ones who can really make the change and help younger women see aging as something to be really embraced and not feared. So Gail, add what you want to add, please.
I really came to this point when I had a life crisis that made me have to look at who I was in the world. I made my living doing training and technical assistance for human services professionals. And I was up giving a speech at a conference, and I could not catch my breath to speak and couldn't get a word out. And we found out through many medical tests and whatever, that my diaphragm was paralyzed on both sides, partially on one side and all the way on the other side. And I didn't know if I would ever again have the breath to speak and to talk. And I had to really rethink. I'd made my living doing this. What was the difference? And then how would I put myself into the world? And what I realized in that moment was that I had spent my whole life speaking other people's truths and other people's agendas and working on other people's goals and all of that. And I literally, you hear people talk about when they have a life crisis, they bargain with God, universe, spirit. I did. And I said, if I ever again have the breath to speak, it's going to be the thoughts that come from you through me and not through other people. And I would just urge young people, don't wait for the crisis. You can, don't wait for the crisis to get clear. But also to know that the thing I learned then when I was trying to sort out, what am I able to do? What am I not able to do? Where will my life be? I was living at the end of an oxygen hose 24/7 for about 3 years.
Wow.
Before I was able to wean off the oxygen. And what I learned then was the phrase, and I apologize for not being able to quote the speaker of this phrase, but that comparison is the thief of joy. And I learned that I needed to live in the declarative rather than the comparative.
Mm.
And that was going to be my happy place. And so I would just urge younger women to find the courage and the wisdom, and when they feel able to grasp living in the declarative rather than the comparative, to move forward and claiming their full being.
Another great quote, live in the declarative, not the comparative. I've never heard it put that way before. Thank you. And Gail, I didn't know that. I didn't know your story. That's remarkable because what I love about the way you speak is that you speak with such intention and your pacing. Anybody else notice that? It's just like, okay, I'm saying something really important here. You should all slow down and listen to me. Do you speak differently now than you did before?
I do, as a matter of fact. And some of the cadence of my speech is about getting enough breath to get the words out.
Okay. Well, it really works, I think. I think it works well for the message that you deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Rosemary. If you can remember what we're talking about,
Yeah.
just throw something out. It'll be fine.
The beginning of the question about when did you start to trust intuition, I go back to blessing my parents, because when I was a kid, I used to see things and Mother Mary a lot, and they would always accept that. Or I remember having a dream and about some, like Isabella or something, this woman was comforting me. I was crying, and my mom looking up, oh, well, it's the feast of Saint Rose of Lima, and your name is Rosemary, and her name was Isabella before she was called Saint Rose. And so, there was a way that my experiences were honored. And then in college, I'm a college math major, and I was doing a paper on infinity, and I kept moving into consciousness, and I kept being like, wait a minute, multiple dimensions. And so here I'm in a Catholic women's college, and I went to one of the priests who was a buddy and a Roman trained, brilliant man. And I started sharing this, like, there are all these dimensions of consciousness, and we go in and out and all that. And I was very supported in that. He didn't say, oh, go read your Bible or anything like that. It was, well. And then fast forward through, a first marriage and child and all the rest of that part of the career. And I was working on Hubble Space Telescope, and I heard a voice saying, be a spiritual healer. And I'm thinking, no, I'm doing this, and it's fun and it's glamorous and all the rest of that. No, be a spiritual healer. And I ended up, after some resistance, which is one of the advices I would give, don't resist when you get the voice, just answer it.
It just gets louder, doesn't it?
It does get louder and more insistent. And I ended up having fibromyalgia and, being on short-term disability for a few months, doing the dark night of the soul, until I realized I have to change careers. I have to be a spiritual healer. I have to use these tools out there in the world. And it was my mom who had held on to my story about all these dimensions and consciousness from college. And she reminded me of that and said, well, you talked about all this stuff when you were in college. So it was kind of interesting to go through that. And then in seminary, I actually felt Mother Mary come and say, you'll give a message for me. And I resisted that until it was almost like it was going to come out of my mouth, whether I wanted it to or not. And so I committed to doing that work and discovered the mediumship and the sharing for the channeling and how I could be a spiritual healer, how I could help. So it was really kind of an all my life points where people did help me honor that. And so, as Lilia was saying, it was the times when I heard the voice say, take an umbrella, and didn't, that I discovered maybe if I hear that voice saying, take an umbrella, I better take an umbrella. And so I would say, pay attention to that voice and also do the work on yourself. Don't put that off, because the earlier you start clearing out all the blocks, all the other people's beliefs and thoughts and stuff, don't believe anybody else's story about yourself. Get in touch with you. And the earlier you do that, and I see, as Belinda does, I see some young people who are really doing it, and they're owning it, and they're owning themselves, and they're telling the rest of us, hey, you know what? This doesn't work. Let's change this. So I think that that's a part of being yourself in the world. Be your authentic self. That is the most important message for any age.
Yeah. And as women of our age, we're all within probably, I think, a couple of years of each other here. Let's be those women who know that we still don't know it all either, right? There's so much we can learn from younger women. And so much they can bring to the table, and they need to know that. They need to know that they're not being judged because of what we might see as a lack because of their years on the planet. And so what am I trying to say here? I'm not sure. Just that as self-professed wise women, we know we have gifts to bring. One of those gifts can be understanding others' gifts and helping to bring them into the fold, helping to shine a light on them, helping them to be seen and heard in greater ways, and gaining the confidence where they can be someday sitting here just talking about how brilliant we are, right? That's really still so challenging. It's still challenging for women in their 80s, which is just the thing that saddens me so much. And that's going to be my last question, because we've been out here for a bit, but we could go on for days. I know we could. Last question, quick answer for each of you. And I'll just say, who wants to answer this? Raise your hand. What's next for you as far as like when do we stop, right? When do we stop? What's next? Do you have big plans? This is not the question I thought I was going to ask. Something just took over and asked something different. I swear that just happened. So I'm going to have you all answer it. What's next for you, and what are you excited about? And does age have anything to do with your plans coming up? Let's go with Lilia.
I plan on just continuing as I have, continuing to grow, continuing to seek truth and sharing my truth and helping others find theirs, helping them clear whatever blocks are in their way. And my overall mission is to bring heaven on earth. So I want to see that happen.
And remind us, some of us don't know how old your dad is.
104. So right now, that's a part of my service, is to help him keep shining his light.
Yeah. Belinda.
Yesterday, we funeralized my mother-in-law, who lived to be 96, and the accolades for her. She lived such a kind life. What I want to do moving forward is to just find more kindness in myself towards others. And I want to write a book by myself in anthologies, but I want to in my own book.
Good. Thank you. Gail.
Oh, gosh. My mission is to create a critical mass of people who use the power of language and listening to heal the world. We, in this world, use language so divisively and destructively rather than to create and connect. And so I want to do that. And in the very immediate future, I'll be hosting the National Claim Your Voice Day, the second annual, on the 19th of May. And this year, I'm going to focus not on the people who share their voices from the big stage, but people who share the voices in their voices in the small conversations
Hmm.
and in their day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
So really talking about how do you share your voice and speak from the heart without a platform and without a podium.
Thank you for that. You all know that one of the missions of what I do is to shine a spotlight on women, help them to be in the spotlight. And that's relative. Not everybody wants to be on a big stage talking to thousands of people. Some of us do, right? It could be having some influence around your dinner table or in your block with one child, with just using your voice in a way that impacts one person at a time. And so I think that's another thing I want to encourage anyone watching this is we all have our things to do that are ours, and they're not all earth-shattering, headline-grabbing things. But we do what we can with what we have and who we're meant to serve. The question I've been asking myself a lot over the last 5 years is, what is mine to do? That's like a question I ask whenever a new opportunity is offered to me, is what is mine to do? Does this take me on the path I'm on and I want to be on, or does it take me over here, meandering around where I don't want to be? So Rosemary, what's on the horizon for you?
I want to keep on keeping on. And so when you said something about, when do we stop? It's like that last breath, I'll probably be talking in the middle of a word. But the thing is, I know I'm here to help raise human consciousness. I know that's what I'm on the planet to do. And so evolution doesn't stop, it keeps moving. So in participating in the evolution of consciousness, I'm just here to raise my voice. I'm here to uplift others who are raising their voice. I'm here to help everybody be their authentic self. So why would I stop? I mean, as long as I can. I've enjoyed working with Zoom. I've been on video conferencing for a long time because I have clients all over. It's like, why would I stop? I don't have to travel. I don't have to do anything. If I want to, I can. And so there's kind of a level of participation that I think we all are making contributions, whatever level, to however many people. It's not about, oh, I have to make $1 million. I do want to write a book like Belinda. I've been talking about it for 20 years and it's probably time to start. But I feel like I have 20 years more work to do. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And I don't have a stop. And fortunately, I have a wonderful, supportive husband who is a Qigong instructor and who helps me with all of my tech stuff. And as a partnership, we're having a lot of fun. We enjoy our work. We enjoy our days. We have kids and grandkids and great grandkids. Like, stop what? I don't know what I'd stop. So
Yeah,
I'm just
very
going to
blessed.
keep going.
Yes. I'm still in touch with quite a few women that I went to high school with. Some of them I've known since I was 4, even younger probably. And the question I often get from them is, well, when are you going to retire? Because we're all running around the same age, and many of them became educators at different levels, but they all retired the minute they could. And to get their, they got a nice pension. And my answer is always, retire from what? I mean, my husband tells me, he told me this great thing one time. I was talking, it was a number of years ago. One of those friends she and her husband years earlier had bought a beach house on my island in North Carolina, where her parents had gone to visit my parents when they retired there, and they loved this. They bought a beach house for their retirement. So a few years back, they retired and moved there. And I was like really jealous. It was like, oh, and I said to my husband, maybe it's just time for me to quit what I'm doing and go put my toes in the sand. And he said, do you think that would be enough? I said, I don't know, but I'd really love to give it a try. And then he said, well, you know what would happen, Ginny? You'd be walking down the beach. You'd spot another woman coming your way. You'd stop. You'd make eye contact. You'd realize she's one of your people. You would start a conversation. You'd see another woman. You would invite her over. And before you know it, you're having a circle meeting on the beach. And it cracked me up because he knows me that well. But wouldn't you all agree that you would do this whether or not you were making any money from it?
You bet.
You would be living your life the same way, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So I love that knowledge. And so what would I be leaving behind? I want to work a little smarter. I don't want to continue to put as many hours in because I want to do other things with those hours. But yeah, Oh, Belinda. Yeah, she just, oh, there you go. So I'm going to wrap this up now. We almost went a full hour, which I think is really wonderful. And I want to thank all four of you, Rosemary, Gail, Belinda, and Lilia. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for saying yes. Even
Thank
with the
you.
mixed up date. I had the wrong date initially that I gave you, but you all were able to come anyway. And thank you for sharing yourselves today and just imparting your gifts. And I hope lots of people look at this and understand what it means to age with, I like to say, ease and grace, you know?
Ease and
So
grace.
thank you so
And to
much.
be brilliant.
And to be
What was
brilliant.
that?
Yes.
To be brilliant, she
And
said.
to be brilliant.
Yes, yes. And so I'm going to say this now to sign off here. I want to tell everybody watching, thank you, whether you're watching. Now, here we go, right? The camera's on me. I'm just going to stop that because there we go. Okay. We never edit these interviews. This is why, because, you know, we're real women living our lives on purpose, right?
Mhm.
But thank you to anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay. If you love this interview and want to share it with your friends, it will be up on our YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. So go over to On Purpose Woman Global Community on YouTube. Please subscribe, and you can sign up for notifications if you don't want to miss any that we're doing. There are over 150 inspiring, informative, and fun shows for you to watch. Plus, you can also see videos of the speakers at our On Purpose Woman Global Community Zoom gatherings. We have 2 more shows this month, and my other host, Catherine Yarborough, will be doing both of these. On Thursday, February 23rd, Catherine will talk with pleasure and passion coach Tamara Robinson about how to reclaim your pleasure. And on Tuesday, February 28th, Catherine will be talking with the speakers at her March 10th event about 5 ways to attract clients. You can always find out what's coming up on the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show by going to my website, opwgc.com, and clicking on the On Purpose Woman magazine. Look for the spread in the comments, and while you're on the website, check out the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Thank you again for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show.